What happens when someone brings their father's deathbed diary on live television and Dr. Phil himself freezes in complete shock? Stop. Stop the tape right now. Dr. Phil's voice cut through the studio like a knife. The cameras kept rolling, but everyone, the crew, the audience, the guests, went completely still. In his hand, a woman named Sarah held a worn leather diary, its pages yellowed with age and secrets. What was written inside would change everything. But nobody in that studio was prepared for what those pages contained. It had started like any other Dr. Phil episode. Sarah Mitchell, a 42-year-old teacher from Ohio, had written to the show about her family's decades-long estrangement. 3 siblings who hadn't spoken in 15 years. A mother who refused to see her own children. A family torn apart by something that happened in 1998. Something nobody would talk about. My family has been broken for half my life, Sarah had written in her application. And I don't even know why. The Dr. Phil team had done their homework. They'd contacted Sarah's brother Marcus, her sister Jennifer, and even their mother Eleanor. All of them had agreed to come to the studio. All of them had agreed to finally talk. But what none of them knew was that Sarah had found something 3 weeks before taping. Something her father had hidden in his workshop before he died in 2020. His diary. And what he had written in those final days would expose a family's secret so devastating that even Dr. Phil would be left speechless. The show began normally. Dr. Phil walked onto the stage to thunderous applause, that familiar confident stride, that direct eye contact with the camera. Today we're talking about families torn apart by secrets, he announced. And we're going to find out what's keeping the Mitchell family from speaking to each other after 15 years. Sarah sat in the guest chair, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. She looked nervous, fragile even. Beside her, Marcus and Jennifer sat stiffly, avoiding eye contact with each other. In the audience, their mother Eleanor sat with her arms crossed, her face a mask of stone. Dr. Phil started with his usual technique, direct questions, no nonsense. Sarah, when was the last time you spoke to your mother? Christmas 2009. Sarah replied, her voice barely above a whisper. That's 15 years ago. What happened? Sarah glanced at her siblings, then at her mother. We had a fight. About Dad. About the accident. The word accident hung in the air like a dark cloud. Dr. Phil leaned forward. What accident? My father died in a car crash in 1998. Marcus interjected, his voice hard. Single vehicle accident. They said he fell asleep at the wheel. But you don't believe that, Dr. Phil stated. It wasn't a question. No, Jennifer said quietly. None of us believed it. Dad never drove tired. He was meticulous about everything. And the police report, there were things that didn't make sense. Eleanor suddenly stood up in the audience. Stop this. Stop it right now. The studio went silent. Even Dr. Phil paused, watching the elderly woman with careful attention. Mrs. Mitchell, Dr. Phil said gently, we're here to help your family heal. But healing requires honesty. What are you afraid of? I'm not afraid of anything, Eleanor snapped. I'm protecting my husband's memory. From what? Sarah asked, tears beginning to form. Mom, what are you protecting him from? He's been gone for over 25 years. We deserve to know the truth. There is no truth to know, Eleanor insisted. It was an accident. That's all. Dr. Phil stood up and walked closer to Eleanor. Ma'am, with respect, if it was just an accident, your family wouldn't be destroyed. 3 children wouldn't go 15 years without speaking to their mother. Something else happened. And I think you know what it was. But what Dr. Phil didn't know was that Sarah was about to reveal something that would make his 20 years of hosting experience seem inadequate. Sarah reached into her bag. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely grip the zipper. Dr. Phil, she said, her voice cracking. 3 weeks ago, I went to clean out my father's old workshop. My mom was going to sell the house, and I wanted to see if there was anything worth keeping. She pulled out a leather-bound book, its cover worn and stained. I found this. Hidden in a toolbox in the back corner. Under the false bottom. The cameras zoomed in on the diary. Even on the monitors you could see how old it was, how the pages were warped from moisture and time. What is that? Dr. Phil asked, his professional instincts kicking in. It's my father's diary, Sarah said, her voice barely steady. But it's not from 1998. It's from 2020. He wrote it 3 months before he died of cancer. Subscribe and leave a comment, because the most powerful part of this story is still ahead. Eleanor's face went white. Where did you get that? She hissed. From Dad's workshop. Like I said. Sarah opened the diary carefully, as if it might crumble in her hands. He wrote every day for 3 months. About his life. About his regrets. About. She looked up at her mother, tears streaming down her face. About what really happened in 1998. Stop, Eleanor said. Sarah, don't you dare. Hold on. Dr. Phil raised his hand, and the entire studio seemed to hold its breath. Sarah, before you read anything from that diary, I need to ask you something. Have you read it? Every word. Sarah whispered. And what did it say? Sarah looked at her siblings. Marcus had gone pale. Jennifer was crying silently. Then she looked at her mother, and her voice hardened. It said that my father didn't die in an accident in 1998. That was his twin brother, Uncle James. The studio erupted. The audience gasped. Marcus jumped to his feet. Jennifer's hands flew to her mouth. And Dr. Phil did something he'd never done in 20 years of hosting. He stopped the cameras. Stop. Stop the tape right now. His voice was firm but not angry. He looked at the producers in the booth. Stop recording. Everybody out. Audience, I need you to exit calmly. Crew, step back. Family, you stay. For 3 long minutes, the studio cleared. The audience filed out, whispering frantically. The camera operators stepped away from their equipment. The boom mic operators lowered their equipment and left. Only Dr. Phil, Sarah, Marcus, Jennifer, Eleanor, and 2 producers remained. What happened in those next 30 minutes would never be fully broadcast. But what was captured would become one of the most powerful moments in television history. Dr. Phil sat down directly across from Sarah. No cameras between them now. Just human to human. Sarah, he said quietly, what you're holding could destroy your family permanently. Or it could save it. But before we continue, I need everyone in this room to understand something. He looked at each family member in turn. Whatever is in that diary, whatever your father wrote, it's going to hurt. Secrets this big don't come out cleanly. They tear. They rip. They leave scars. He paused. Are you all ready for that? Marcus spoke first. I've been ready for 27 years. Jennifer nodded, unable to speak. Eleanor sat down heavily, suddenly looking every bit of her 78 years. I tried to protect you all, she whispered. From what, Mom? Sarah asked, her voice breaking. From the truth? That's not protection. That's prison. Dr. Phil leaned back. Sarah, read us what your father wrote. But slowly. Give your family time to process. Sarah opened the diary to a page marked with a faded ribbon. And she began to read. March 15th, 2020. The doctors say I have 3 months, maybe 4. Eleanor begs me not to write this down, but I can't go to my grave carrying this lie. My children deserve to know the truth, even if it destroys the memory they have of me. Her voice shook, but she continued. In 1998, I wasn't the man who died in that car accident. It was my twin brother James. We had been drinking that night, both of us, heavily, more than we should have. James got behind the wheel even though I begged him not to. I was too drunk to stop him physically, but I should have tried harder. Marcus made a strangled sound. Jennifer was openly sobbing. The accident happened 3 miles from the house. Sarah read on. James hit a tree at 60 miles an hour. By the time I got there, I'd followed in my own car. He was already gone. And in that moment, standing over my brother's body, I made a choice that would haunt me for the rest of my life. The studio was so quiet you could hear the air conditioning humming. I switched our wallets. I took his wedding ring and put on mine. I called 911 and told them I was James Mitchell, reporting that my brother David, that's me, had been in an accident. And when the police came, when the ambulance came, when Eleanor came, I told them all that David Mitchell had died. Eleanor let out a sob that seemed to come from the depths of her soul. I knew, she whispered. God help me, I knew the moment I saw him. You can't be married to a man for 20 years and not recognize him. But he begged me. He said if the truth came out, he'd go to jail for vehicular manslaughter because he'd been drinking. He said our children would grow up with a father in prison. So you lied, Dr. Phil said gently. It wasn't an accusation. It was a statement of fact. I lied, Eleanor confirmed. I told everyone it was David in that car. We buried James under David's name. And David, my David, he became James. He took his brother's identity. His brother's life. But the diary wasn't finished. Sarah's hands trembled as she turned the page. That's not all, is it? She asked her mother. Eleanor shook her head. No. That's not all. Sarah continued reading. But the worst part wasn't the lie. The worst part was that James, the real James, had been a good man. Better than me in many ways. He had a wife and a daughter who mourned him. Who mourned David Mitchell. And I let them grieve for the wrong man because I was too much of a coward to tell the truth. Jennifer stood up abruptly. Wait. Uncle James was married? He had a daughter? Your cousin, Eleanor said quietly. Rachel. She was 5 years old when the accident happened. She's your age now, Marcus. Stop. Dr. Phil stood up and walked to the center of the stage. Eleanor, where is Rachel now? I don't know, Eleanor admitted. After the funeral, James's wife, Rachel's mother, moved away. We lost contact. I tried to find them over the years, but... She trailed off. Dr. Phil turned to one of the producers who had stayed. We need to find Rachel Mitchell. Now. Whatever resources we have, use them. Then he looked back at the family. Here's what's going to happen. We're going to take a break. Sarah, you're going to finish reading that diary with your siblings and your mother. Privately. No cameras. No audience. Just family. He pulled out his phone and made a call right there on the stage. Robin, it's me. I need the names of 3 grief counselors and a family therapist. Licensed, experienced, available today if possible. Yes, it's urgent. Share and subscribe. Make sure this story is never forgotten. 20 minutes later, Dr. Phil returned to the stage alone. The cameras were rolling again, but the family was backstage. He spoke directly to the home audience. What you're witnessing today is real. It's raw. It's painful. And it's exactly what happens when families keep secrets so big they poison everything they touch. He held up a card. If you're watching this and you have a secret that's destroying your family, call this number. Don't wait 27 years. Don't let your children grow up in a house full of lies. Get help. Now. An hour later, the family returned to the stage. Their eyes were red. They were holding hands, all of them, even Eleanor. Sarah still clutched the diary, but now it seemed less like a weapon and more like a bridge. We're going to heal, Marcus said simply. It's going to take time. It's going to take therapy. But we're going to do it together. Dr. Phil nodded. And Rachel? Sarah smiled through her tears. We found her. Your producers found her. She lives in Oregon. She's a nurse. She has 2 kids. She looked at the camera. Rachel, if you're watching this, we're your family. And we owe you the truth. We owe you an apology. And if you'll let us, we'd like to know you. The epilogue came 6 months later. Dr. Phil opened the follow-up episode with a video call. On screen, Sarah, Marcus, Jennifer, Eleanor, and a woman with kind eyes and her father's smile. Rachel. We've been talking every week, Rachel said. It's strange. It's complicated. But I finally understand why my mom moved us away so suddenly. Why she never talked about my dad's family. She knew something was wrong. She just didn't know what. Dr. Phil smiled, a genuine warm smile. Rachel, how does it feel to know the truth? Painful, she admitted. But necessary. My kids have cousins now. I have siblings. And my dad, my real dad, he wasn't perfect. But he loved me. And that's what matters. The diary sat on Dr. Phil's desk, a silent testament to the power of truth. Sometimes, Dr. Phil said, looking directly at the camera, the things we hide to protect people end up hurting them more than the truth ever could. This family lost 27 years because of a lie. Don't let that happen to you. He held up the diary one last time. This isn't just a book. It's a reminder that secrets have weight. They have cost. And eventually they demand to be told. The Mitchell family learned that lesson the hard way. But they learned it together. And that made all the difference. As the cameras faded, Dr. Phil placed the diary gently on his desk, not as evidence of tragedy, but as proof that even the deepest wounds can begin to heal when truth finally breaks through the silence.